Oh, good afternoon. Sorry, I was shivering away there. It's bloody freezing here. Welcome to On the Tools Talking Trade. You probably recognise this rather homeless-looking bloke. My name's Andy, and I'm going to be the host for the next. We might push to 40 minutes today because we've got a brilliant topic: apprenticeships, the good, the bad, and the ugly. And in terms of all-round guests, we couldn't get three better ones because we've got everybody that's being affected or has been affected in different ways. In no particular order, we have Chris, who went through the apprenticeship as a carpenter and joiner. He's now running a successful firm in North London. He's having difficulty taking them on. Beth, who recently qualified as a bricklayer, so she's got first-hand experience of what's going on. And Carl, who's sort of switched careers and is now, well, fun enough, as you can see, apprentice plumber. Welcome to you both. No, there's three of you. Sorry. Welcome to all three of you. Oh, cold on. The brain's frozen. Right. Keep comments coming in. We're going to read them out. What is your issues? Chris, let's start with you, mate. You went through an apprenticeship years ago and it's not much better now, is it?
Thank you for having me on, Andy, and good afternoon, you guys on the tools and the listeners. It's a great subject, something I'm passionate about. Construction is the foremost and forefront business that, especially through this global pandemic at the moment we're in, and younger people in construction, female and male, might add, it needs to be spearheaded in the right direction because we're not getting any younger. And what's going to happen? What is the future of construction? Let's have it outright. It's not just the UK, it's the rest of the world. We need more social housing. We can go on different topics, but just coming back that we need to show a broad census and bang our heads together to speak about to the general public about there is an option to have an apprenticeship after you leave school.
Now, Beth, welcome again. You've been on before. Beth's now qualified, everyone, bricklayer, and if you follow her on social media, you'll see that her work is bloody brilliant. But like all of us, she's snowed off at the moment. Laura Gardner is doing her bricklaying MPA level 5, and she's up in Glasgow. Beth, what advice would you give her, bearing in mind you've recently come through it?
I mean, she's doing a lot better than me to do a 5th year, but it's just like anything. You just got to, obviously, if she's been doing it long enough, she'll know that it's a load of fun. You get to meet different characters all the time. But yeah, in Glasgow, I can only imagine how cold it is up there. I'm in the house and it's like 2 degrees. So obviously, just carry on with what you're doing.
Now, Carl, what's the best bit you found so far? A little bit on your story, mate, because you're obviously sort of coming across into the industry rather than straight into it.
Yeah, I mean, I've spent years on sites. Had a hand accident about 3.5 years ago. Crushed my hand. Thought that was me manually done. Yeah, got an opportunity with a couple plumbers to be a labourer. That's all I could do. Found that I loved the plumbing and was offered an apprenticeship. Big decision at 36, 37. I mean, come on now, mortgage, cars, what do you do? It was the only option I had. And yeah, bit the bullet, used some savings, and 3 years later, absolutely love it. Absolutely love it. So
well, yeah. I tell you what, one of your comments there leads perfectly into the next question. Luke Hughes, I am 100% behind him. He says wages 100%. He started on 30 quid a day at 17, and after a year and a half experience, it was up to 40 quid a day. Chris, how are we going to get people into the industry? Beth will vouch for this. £3 something an hour. That's not even a pint.
It's crazy.
I started on low. Yeah.
That's not even a pint. Cool. We wish we were back in the pub, eh? Reminiscing on them days, eh? It's crazy, eh?
Well, what do we think, Chris? I mean, we've got to put that up. If you've got commitments like Carl has with family, or you're running a car, or you've got bills, and you're not living at home, how can anyone come into construction and suddenly start, affording to live on that? It's got to go up, hasn't it?
I fully and wholeheartedly agree. It's like anything in life. You pay for what you get. If people are blood, sweat and tears trying to make it in a profession like construction, which is lucrative, might I add, for someone that works hard, then why shouldn't you get paid for what you should be doing? you've got to give incentives to people. You've got to give incentives to the younger generation. The younger generation are looking at influencers and stuff like that, where they can get things quick. We'll look at our phone, we're all guilty of it, that we can get things straight away. But it doesn't. Things take time. You've got to be passionate, you've got to have perseverance, you've got to be hardworking and willing to earn good money. It doesn't come like that. It takes years and years of blood, sweat and tears.
Sorry, just going off topic a second. One thing that I fucking hate, and that is any form of racism. And something's just come in a comment. Bear with me. Georgie Pearson. I don't like to hear this, but I'm going to read it out because this has got to stop. My son's just given up his apprenticeship. He wasn't on apprenticeship wage. He's just given up because of racism. He's found men and boys think casual racism is okay on site. He's been at college for 2 years, but will have no qualifications if he gives it up. He's 50 quid under the apprenticeship wage, but is expected to pay rent and council tax out of this. Now, Georgie, please can you contact the On the Tools page, because one of the topics we've got coming up in the next few weeks on this show is racism in construction. And as far the years that I've been working, I've not seen much of it. So please contact On the Tools, because I'd love to have your son on the show talking about this, because it's down to us to stamp this out. So I'm really sorry to hear that. Sorry, Beth, back to wages. You started off on the massive sum of £3.10 an hour. How did you survive? And why did you stick at it? That's the other thing.
I think it was the love of what I was doing that made me stick to it. And I saw the bigger picture of at the end, I'll be qualified, I'll have no debt and everything like that. But going to that comment, I just think for £3.10 as an apprentice, you're turning up every day in the crap weather, and you don't get paid enough to deal with that shit. I hate the fact people don't always understand. You're there for £3.10. You want to put the effort in. Why should you put up with that? And again, people always think apprentices are 16, and obviously they're not. They're a bit older, so the commitment's hard. So apprenticeships aren't just for 16 out of school, no commitments, and so it does need to be up to, if you can earn minimum wage doing something at Tesco or vice versa. Why can't you get minimum wage or more when you're doing something that's mentally and physically more harder than that?
Well, listen, a lot of comments are coming in saying everybody sees the bigger picture. Chris is a great example of this. Beth is as well. You graft, you qualify, you get your bit of paperwork. And construction, we all know you can earn good money. The myth of being on crap wages, especially with what's going on at the moment, crikey, you can do well. So I think we can do well, but the money at the moment. Carl, how are you surviving, mate? Are you on beans every day?
Well, do you know what? I actually started on weekly to 235 quid. That was what I actually started on a week. But luckily, where I was with my partner at the time. It's just balance. We kind of worked it out. I don't think I bought any clothes, any trainers for first 2 years. I just survived. I woke up, I took my packed lunch out of the fridge, packed lunch, little sandwich, crisps, just what I could have. Went to work, came home, walked the dog, repeat. That was all, and I was happy with that, because just like Beth said, and Chris, bigger picture. It is the bigger picture, and it is hardship. And I'd say I don't know that many people that would be prepared to go through that for that money, and it isn't an incentive. So unless you've got this mindset, this frame of mind, you will be going to Tesco's, you will be going to them other incentivized jobs that aren't kind of fulfilling, that aren't going to provide you, future security, and you just end up bummed out 20 years down the line, don't you? I think.
Well, Chris, let me ask you another thing, mate. The youngsters of today. Sorry, Beth, that you aren't one of these, because you're obviously doing an amazing job up there. But a lot of people think it's easier to get onto YouTube and do stuff with your phones and social media, which is an easy way of earning money. When you're grafting, as Beth said, in minus whatever, trying to crack the frost off everything, and you've got your site manager moaning that you're not laying, even though it's frozen, to compete with jobs like Tesco's and McDonald's that are £9 to £12 an hour, and office jobs that are a lot more. We've got to get that minimum wage up, get them in initially, to once people come in, they can then see, as you've done, do very well for yourself because you grafted.
Yeah, I mean, it's just informing, educating people, and talking to the government. I know the government got a lot to play with what we're doing at the moment. You've got to understand that for the general public, and our health is the most important fundamental factor. But the scary thing, what George said, which is fair play, I take my hat off to you, sir, that weekly wage within the apprenticeship hasn't changed in like 10, 15 years. I mean, I was getting that money when I was 10, well, yeah, I've been a carpenter and joiner as a trade for 15 odd years. So it's absolutely quite fundamentally scary that we actually haven't done anything about it. And these fantastic people like Beth that are still going, and you, George, are going for it, and all the rest of the younger generation and sort of middle-aged generation going for doing apprenticeships have that hard-working perseverance, that sort of fighting spirit to achieve something they actually really enjoy and passionate about, and ideally coming towards the end of earning good money for it. That it bamboozles me how they won't look after their own. I'm not saying in that kind of case of about any other profession, but construction needs to be looked at in a magnifying glass and say, look, you've got to give people the fair option to be paid a fair wage to do an apprenticeship. I can't understand why it hasn't. Nothing's been changed. No movement or anything, or no one spoke about it. And that's why platforms like this today, where we can use it in a positive light, and people like myself trying to go on social media and speak about positive. I don't need to upsell. It's just about giving honest, genuine advice and how we can help one another in the construction industry.
Thing is, right, you look at it, we're just under 10% of GDP, worth billions. We're not a small industry with a few people doing it part-time. As you said before we came on air, Chris, we're still going to work where a lot of people are working from home or been furloughed or whatever. You know, we're keeping this country going. So Beth, do you agree we've got to go all the way back to school to get the perception of construction changed? Because, all right, I'm 45 now, but when I was 16, it was university or go and dig a hole. If we get the perception changed, like France, Germany, massively, in Germany, tradespeople are put on the same level as, you know, doctors and solicitors. I think we've got to go all the way back to school, Beth, and get the perception changed, and then we move on to apprenticeships.
Yeah, I think, like, unfortunately, at the minute, we're sort of fighting a losing battle with, obviously, streamers, you know, gaming and, like, Love Island influencers. We're fighting that sort of where they can earn thousands doing the bare minimum, going on holiday and everything like that. Whereas for £3.10 an hour, you're out shifting bricks and blocks about 3 hours a day, 7 days, well, 5 days a week, not 7. And why would that appeal to someone when they can see an easier option of someone that's a lot harder, but in the long run is more like you achieve a lot more as a person, and the opportunities afterwards are a lot greater. You've got no debt. But I think a lot of it is we have no role models. Like, there's no pinpoint people that you can say, oh, if you was at school, do you know this person is in construction, this person is, but guarantee they know everyone that's been on TV shows, etc.
So just keeping these comments, I'm trying to read out as many as I can. Wayne Burgess, this goes back to what we're saying. 18 quid a week he was on when he started his apprenticeship. His mates were on over 100 quid a week working in a factory. That's simple maths, isn't it? We've got to get that base rate up. But Carl, what were you told at school, mate? Were you encouraged to go into construction, or is this again just a constant thing that if you're thick and you fail, go and do it?
Do you know what? It wasn't actually. I don't actually think it was known, was it? It wasn't the talk. It wasn't the. You know, people didn't aspire to be a plumber, a bricklayer, a carpenter. It was always, you know, the granddad or the dad was, but it still wasn't. That's what I'm going to be when I leave. I think it was actually just. It was office. It was, like you say, university. It was the programmed, predetermined path, wasn't it?
So we've got to change that, because you know what, Beth, you hit a massive point there. If you went into any school from, you know, I've got two little ones who are 7 and 8.5. If you were to ask them to name somebody, you know, off some drivel on TV like skating on ice or whatever it's called, they'd know it. But if they could, you know, name famous tradespeople or builders, you know, which company built Houses of Parliament? Someone built that with their own hands. That is highly skilled work. It's easier than prancing about on some bloody roller skates. So, Chris, we've got to go back, do you think, to saying how bloody cool it is to be in construction, because you look what you do with your hounds. How proud of you, because you're so bloody good at it. It's brilliant.
Yeah, no, I mean, look, I appreciate it. I mean, the thing is, I mean, what George just said there, I come from a family background where I've done it. I mean, my brother and my sister have gone down the uni route, but for us, it was my dad was a builder. I was, apologies, I'm dog sitting for the week, so it isn't going too well.
That dog keeps looking up.
I know, bless him. He can jump on in a minute. So go back to me, sorry.
Sorry, Beth. Just while he's sorting out his furry friend, it's the big thing is getting people. We need role models. Do you think? Because when you look at the Mirror, the Sun, or you go on telly, there's a lot of these people that youngsters are looking at. These influencers, celebrities that have been famous because they were half naked in Dubai last week. Well, if we have role models like you, like someone that can say, I've gone to college, I've learnt this apprenticeship, I've just built that bloody house. Do you think that's the way we need to go?
Yeah, hopefully it's not half naked builders on site, but I think
no, not doing that. Not with lockdown. I look like bloody one of the Teletubbies.
But I think people have they don't realise the people on site. I've met some of the most fun. In school, they say we're setting you up for later on in life. I've met 40-year-old men, more immature than people my age, but they're the best people to be around. And I wish people saw that side of construction and just being with those kind of people. It's character building, and I just
it's real life, isn't it?
Yeah. It's honestly, I wish people saw that side of. I laugh every day, and I have done since I was 16, being in construction, and people unfortunately don't see that. So I think if they did, they'd realise how brilliant it is to turn up to work every day.
If you've just joined us, we're halfway through Talking Trade Live this week. We've got an apprentice plumber, brilliant bricklayer who's just qualified, and a company owner who is a joiner who's dog sitting. And you can hear his little furry friend who's piping up occasionally. Chris, if it's good to talk now, mate, I just want to ask you, do we need our bodies, and when I say bodies, we've got a lot of marketing agencies, haven't we, that you go and join us, give us a few £100 a year, we'll try and get you some work. But do we need some sort of these bodies or federations to actually go and sort this out on behalf of us, or is it going to be up to us to form a group and go and start speaking to local and then national government and get this changed?
Yeah, it's a great question, Andy. I mean, I think, to be honest, I think platforms like this are the spearhead because you're engaging with an audience in construction. They're not going to listen to it on the BBC News at 10 with Trevor McDonald or whatever. You've got to speak with the times. You've got to get in with the social media. That's why I'm trying to do what I'm doing. I don't want to be an influencer selling bikinis or whatever. I want to show the good in construction, to show that it is profitable. You work hard. You have a trade you're proud, you're passionate about, and you love. Of course, sacrifices have to come. You have to work hard to gain it. Nothing's easy. I run a successful business, but it's not easy. It doesn't look like, oh, look at him, he's doing well. It's not. It's all the 6, 7 days, Andy. It's 6, 7 days until 9, 10 o'clock at night. Chaps not turning up, suppliers not turning up. But the thing is, ultimate thing is, I love what I do. And that's entailed in what I do. It comes across. That's why I've got a real good reputation. That's why my staff are proud of what they do, because I pay them fairly. They do a fantastic job, and that package is sold in that fashion. So I think we have to. The thing is, we can do a petition like sign.org or whatever kind of thing to try and rustle up some momentum to get it going. But I think it's more platforms like this is where it's going to fundamentally change, because it's clear to see, as we've just said, to see where like George and Beth is fantastic as we're talking about currently. But in the last 10, 15 years, what have the government done for us? And they need us as much as we need them. So,
yeah.
Well, Brian Laverty, he's up in Scotland. He's a lecturer. If you need any advice, give me a shout. Brian, could you contact the On the Tools page? It'd be great to hear your view from things, and maybe we'll get you on a show soon as well to sort of. It's always good to hear both sides of a story, and obviously we've got 4 tradespeople here that are very passionate about what we do, but we're not hearing it from the other side. I would love to get on some bodies like CITB and whatnot, because it'd be great to hear what are the big things that are causing you guys problems, because I'm 45, I don't get the levy and tariffs, and it's a mess, and we need it clearer, I think. just want to go back to some of the comments. Let's have a look. Daniel Broughton, apologies if I've got that wrong. My son's looking for an apprenticeship as an electrician. He worked all summer for a local electrician to gain some skills. Brilliant thing to do. Great way of getting into it. As we knew, they're unable to offer a placement. He's now at college on an electrical installation course, and he has to send many CVs out, all with no joy. It's a massive struggle to find anything for our youngsters. Daniel, could you please put a note up in the comments where you are based? Because right at the beginning of this series, back in March last year, someone said something like that, and I think we actually ended up getting them hooked up with some work. So listen, if we can help, let us know. So Daniel, let us know what part of the country you're in. Terry Dunn saying hello, hope you're all well. I think the big thing that we really need to do is change the perception back at schools, which is what we said. Now, what age would you say, Chris? Are we going back to primary school? You know, the 6, 7, 8-year-olds, or do we need to go into secondary school and start saying, right, this is your choice of career. In walks Chris. This is what I've built up. This is great. Beth just qualified. Or do you think we need to go back to primary school?
No, great question again, Andy. I think it doesn't hurt to do primary school. I know you know for a fact with children, they go nursery and they play with Lego bricks, etc. Yeah. You're implementing strategies unbeknown. So there's no. Sorry, go on.
No, sorry. I was just sorry. I was just saying it's all the books. It's the programming from a young age that, you know, Peter and like Beth, you know, they built this house and that's what they grew up to know that. Yeah, sorry. I'm a strong believer in that. You know, from the start, it's just broken, isn't it? At the moment,
the thing is, it's like planting a seed. This isn't gonna happen within 2 weeks, 6 months, or a year. This is gonna happen a 5-year plan, maybe even 10 years. But it comes back to, obviously we're sort of the similar age, and I'm 35. And remember that work experience you used to do for a week at college, or sorry, at secondary school, even primary school. Just do that. Implement them simple little strategies to see if the kids actually enjoy it or not. You've got to give them a chance. It's like when you used to do your careers, I forgot the word, but their careers advice week, and they said, what do you want to be? I don't know what I want to be. I want to kick about in the park with my mates on a Sunday morning. I don't know. I want to be a graphic designer or builder or whatever. But if you at least try and usher them that way by saying, I tell you, why don't you try and work for a construction company, or work for a bricklaying company, or work for a plasterer, etc., etc. Just give them the option, because if they don't like it, at least they tried it, and that's the thing. You've got to give it a go.
I think careers week there was nothing we all agree on is kids, boys and girls. First thing they do, and my two are the same. When they go to nursery and then they start school, is they make stuff with their hands. Cardboard boxes, bog roll, bits of Lego, wood, doesn't matter.
Yeah.
They make stuff. And the amount of, I was going to say crap, but I didn't mean it like that. The amount of stuff my son brought home, made out of shoe boxes and all the rest, this is what they all did. And, you know, I was taking offcuts of timber into the school and, you know, the old guttering, because they can make water chutes and stuff. It's in our DNA to make stuff. So, Beth, do you think we're almost encouraged away from it when we've already got it already?
Yeah, because I think in primary school it's more of the being creative. I used to do D&T week and we'd make different things. And I think when you get to high school, it's like, come on, you're a grown up now. We're getting you prepared for when you got to get a job and everything like that. But my job is nothing like what was maybe instilled into me at high school. You know, it was keep your blazer on, you know, uniform, you know, don't talk back and things like that. Whereas my life now, I don't really necessarily wear a uniform. I'm constantly grafted, and if someone tells me I'm a dickhead, they're going to get called dickhead back. But obviously in school, that's not allowed.
Survival, isn't it? Life, real.
Can I also add, right? Sorry, Andy. It comes on to also about like I'm quite passionate, like with you as an advocate for mental health in construction. It doesn't get talked about, and obviously that's another day. It comes back to the same. It's like at school, some children just can't. They're naughty, but they're not naughty because they're in a section where they might be creative in other areas. And like you give them a hammer or a saw, and they can cut a timber straight down the line. I mean, God blimey, if you can't see that and that bangs in your head, excuse the pun, I don't know what is. So it's also about mental health. Some kids might not be good in academically, but they might be fantastic with tools or got some great ideas to put a wall up, etc., etc. So you've got to look at the broader aspects and the whole picture of it.
Just not fitting the narrative, then, are they? It's not fitting the narrative at all. So
listen, we're all good at different things. And as you rightly say, Chris, I remember at school, when I was back in school, sort of late 70s, 80s, it was, well, you were called the thickos. You were put in a thick class because you were basically slowing up the rest of the group. You were put in the corner with your nose on.
What a terrible title.
It's a terrible title, but if now, I'm good with my hands, but I can't do exams if you pay me. But let's look at people at school and say, right, that 9-year-old boy or girl is clearly not set out to be an academic. But have you seen what they've just drawn or created? And, Beth, do you think we've almost got to sort of have people at school looking out for people that are going to be good with their hands and not good with their head?
Yeah, I think obviously you can tell them people straight away that like the people that don't do very well at school tend to be, not going to university and doing kind of what we do, or, as a broader spectrum of, hands-on work and stuff like that. But I can see why it's difficult for schools to, one system sort of fits all kind of thing. It doesn't fit all, but there's, I think, for one teacher and 30 kids, I think trying to navigate those different kids and that don't fit into, doing exams and things like that. But I think, you're taught at school that you're at school to learn to do exams, when really they should be like teaching you to, do these things for later on in life, and say, we can understand you don't enjoy school, you may be not good at this sort of section, but when you leave school, I can guarantee you'll be just encouraging in a different way. Yeah, you might be crying because you can't do an exam, but look at you, Andy, you might not be good at exams, but look at what you do now. You've achieved a lot more than maybe most people that are. So it's just the thing of encouraging, but maybe in a different avenue, I guess.
Sorry, there's one comment I just want to read out because it just disappeared. Sammy Nutt. Apologies if this has come across in the wrong way. I'm 32 and was a chef for 13 years. I want a qualification in welding, but if I did an apprenticeship, the money just wouldn't keep my bills up to date and having rent, car, as you say, living costs. So, sorry, the show was about apprenticeships, not just people coming through school, but people that get to a career change. Now, you look at COVID, I've got mates that are going, Anne, should I go into construction? And I'm saying all day long, if you're miserable in an office, sitting there photocopying your ass on the photocopier all day because you're so bored, look at a change, because you only get one crack at this life. And if you're not happy going into an office or whatever you're doing, look at a trade. And I honestly think that, you run this. So, Chris, I just want to look at your story. You started off as an apprenticeship. Now you're running a successful company. You must be happy. Oh, your mate's back. How happy are you doing that? You couldn't do that doing, working in an office as an accountant, and you're enjoying it because you're good at it.
Exactly. I mean, that's the prime example with George, as you say. He's doing plumbing. It doesn't matter what age you are. I mean, I know we're talking about apprenticeship as it's National Apprenticeship Week. That doesn't correlate to the younger generation. Obviously, it does, because as a broader census of things, when George passes out, Beth has just passed out, they're leading ways to show how you can be in different age gaps. It doesn't matter who you are, what profession you've done before. You stick that to this gentleman's question. It's always time to do something. There's always time to start. If you really, really feel you're passionate and you're not happy in what you do, that's the difference with me. I love what I do. That's why I get up do my routine and get up at 5:45 every morning. That's what I do. That's what I love. I can't change it. Even if I go on holiday, my missus goes to me, can you have a lay in? I'm like, no, because that's just the way I'm instilled. But it's just routine, and anyone can do it. That's the beauty of it.
Well, exactly.
You don't have to be Einstein. I mean,
Terry Dunn, fair play to you, mate. I love hearing stuff like this. Started off as an apprentice. He's now here, boarding kitchens, building extensions, self-employment all the way. So what a success story. Brilliant. Terry, top man. I was going to say, go and get a pint after work, but the pubs are shut. Maybe in a few months, mate. Now, Mr. Apprentice Plumber, what did your mates think when you said at your age you're going to go and do an apprenticeship?
Do you know what? Quite lucky. I'm lucky enough to have a good circle, though. I really am. But the general consensus was why, first of all, just like the question that just came in, your bills. It's the usual questions, isn't it? How are you going to survive? How are you going to pay bills? You manage, don't you, as best you can. You kind of sacrifice a lot. I mean, I can't tell you guys how much I actually sacrificed. You'd probably be bored by the end of the list.
I can fully get it, mate. Yeah.
Yeah. But there is a massive kind of change you have to make to your lives, but you're stepping into an area at the age I was where you're not supported as the as the older, kind of more mature student. And that is very kind of out there. I talk to a lot of people on my social that are my age that have the same struggles that I have. They're not as lucky as me to get the opportunity I did. Yeah, it's unreal. It's unreal. The narrative for an apprentice is young. It is young, and anyone above the age of 30, I do believe, unless you're lucky to get the opportunity, you're scrambling. You're scrambling for that place, aren't you? And for the future.
Well, unfortunately, we're I don't know where half an hour or 30 minutes, 32 seconds has gone. It's flown by this week. I think that's the thing. When you've got a great subject that three brilliant guests who are passionate about their trade come on, time flies by. Just to finish off, like to finish on a positive note on the show. Chris, what is the best thing about your job day to day? What do you love? So if someone's watching thinking, right, I want to be like Chris, what's the big thing that you love doing, being self-employed, running your firm?
Yeah, look, it's a fantastic question today, and obviously thank you very much for having me on. Just enjoy what you do. There's not more on it. I mean, the three sort of points I would give to anyone who wants to start in business, I mean, I would always, 110%, if people are thinking today, our viewers listening about starting a business or a trade themselves, and they want to start a business, I'll say 110%. Do it, because if you're, the only three things that I've instilled in me is sort of positivity, the belief that you can achieve that goal as being in construction and apprenticeship, or even architecture, structure, engineering, etc. The hard work. So like, business isn't easy, but it is rewarding. So please don't think, oh, I want to give up now because I've done this 6 months, I'm not getting the invoices I should, etc., etc. But there's always that goal. There's always that light in the tunnel. You will succeed. You will pass. But I think the most important fundamental factor, the final, I think, is perseverance. Comes back to Beth, comes back to George, is that even if you're on £3 a week, keep at it, because you will achieve something in the end. And I always say to this, you guys, if you want to obviously add me on Instagram, this is Square Mile Builders, but Pete and the rest of the viewers, please feel free, if people want advice or just a question just to ask, especially come out of mental health, talk to me. I'm happy to reply back. I'm happy to help. That's what it's about. I don't need to sell anything. It doesn't cost anything to be nice. It's like obviously you like to be treated. So thanks very much for having me on, Andy. I appreciate it. It's been very informative and very informative.
Now, Beth, you've recently qualified. You've obviously got a bit of snow up there, but what's the best thing you enjoy? I probably know the answer to this, knowing you, but what's the best thing that you could say to people looking to get into an apprenticeship?
I enjoy the people, obviously, like going to work with them every day, and I laugh every day. And like, I wish people seeing that enjoyment, because you meet some nutcases on site, but honestly, this is so brilliant. And obviously, laying bricks every day, like, so it's like the time to like switch off, and just like when you're learning, and you just sort of like lose yourself in it. I know it sounds a bit weird, but you do just like relax doing it. And yeah, I just love like being on site and then being at home. It's like two different sort of like times. So yeah, I just enjoy every day.
Brilliant. Mr. Apprentice Plumber, coming across mid-30s to start an apprenticeship in plumbing. What's the big thing you're loving about it, mate?
Do you know, I love the job. I really do. It's nice to have a passion again. And yeah, it's just, do you know what? It's just the love for the job. I really do love the job. Thankful for the plumber that's above me, plumbers that are around me, even my social circle on social media. Yeah, do you know what? It's hard to put into words, but at my age, it's just fulfilling. I think it really is fulfilling, and just to know that I've got a future coming up. Just like Beth said, I get lost when I'm under a kitchen sink and I'm, in a confined space and I'm soldering away. I've got my music on. Someone walks in, talks some shit, and then they all, it's just that's what I love. It's brilliant. It's life for me. It's life for me. Yeah, and I just wish more people would take that chance, like Chris said, just actually do it. I did it, and I haven't once looked back. I'm tired every day. Come on, we're tired every day, aren't we? Let's be honest. And it's worth it. It is worth it.
Do you know the big thing, asking you guys what the best thing was, all of you, probably without realising it, from beginning to the end of your answer, you had a massive smile on your face. And that, I don't know many people that would say, what do you do for a living? and it's not in the trade, people that are going to enjoy it that much. So thank you ever so much to all three. We've got 35 minutes, isn't it? Time has gone. One thing I would like to say is I'm going to be doing a charity build soon down here in North Surrey. So please add me on Instagram. What I'm looking at doing is basically, the job is called Perfect 10. What I mean by that is everybody that comes and gives me a hand on the tools is going to, I'm asking them to give 10% to the construction industry charity, the Lighthouse Club. Material suppliers are giving 10% of the cost of materials to it, and I'm going to give 10% of profits. We're going to get a lot of magazine coverage, press coverage, hopefully on the tools coming down. So add me on Instagram, because I want to get all the sort of people I've met through filming and social media down, and just have a laugh, have an absolute laugh, because at the end of the day, that is one of the best things about being in construction. We have a bloody good laugh every day. See you next week. Toodle pip.
Thanks, guys.